Don't worry about checking the time. It's HolzerTime. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it is, wherever you are. My name is Steve Holzer. Today, with me, we have a special guest, Ethan Goldspiel from Matterport. Ethan is going to share some things with us. They have come on as a financial supporter for our particular AEC Hackathon online, which is ongoing. I'll give you more information about that as we wrap up to how to get engaged with that. In other roles of mine, when I was with BIM Object, we had done a lot of work with Matterport, and one of the things I want to say about Matterport, I've been involved in this digitalization of the built environment for a long time. I was part of the establishing the U.S. National BIM standard, and one of the challenges that we discussed in that body was that's great. We got these standards, we got this digitalization, we have ways that we can create designs, model designs digitally, even generative design and AI to create a new building from scratch. But in the full building life cycle, the majority of the facilities we don't have any way to like roll it back and start from scratch there. And I've always believed that Matterport actually builds that bridge. It allows us to what I call harvest these existing conditions, whether a campus, a college university campus is getting ready to redo a science lab, or a homeowner is even getting ready to remodel a home. They can capture that digitally with a Matterport and kind of bring in what I call a hybrid digitalization. So they're starting from a platform of digitalization with Matterport and the photogrammetry that they provide. So often we get caught up in this digitalization as something new for new facilities, but it really needs to address, of the $10 trillion a year, I believe the study out of Stanford years ago said that 90% of that money was spent after the building was completed. So there's a lot going on with those facilities, and how do we manage those? So as well, there's another former colleague and good friend of mine in Poland who's created SimLab, and part of SimLab is actually based on using a Matterport scan to I'll call it be the foundation of IoT. And right now it's their smart home product, but I see that even in other facility management roles, large industrial facilities, any kind of facility, Matterport being that real bridge. So wow. Ethan, I'm really excited to have you with me today. I want to thank you and Matterport for sponsoring, this AEC Hackathon and the history that's gone on with it. So, anyway, with that, introduce yourself a little bit, if you would. What's your role at Matterport? But then I got a couple other questions I'll probably pepper in, and then even based on some of the stuff you say, we'll have a little discussion.
Yeah. So Steve, really appreciate you having us on board and giving us the opportunity to talk a little bit. So my name is Ethan. I'm on the business development team at Matterport. I actually general manage what we call now our design, build, and operate vertical. We used to call it the AEC market within Matterport for the last couple of years, but we realized that the tools and the platform that we have really goes beyond kind of the engineering and the construction of the building, but it also goes
this
into
is the applause track, just so you know, okay? Because that's critical. Anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that's key.
Yeah, exactly. So it really starts with the design and the build, and then going past the architecture and the construction, and now goes into the operations and the facilities management of that building. So we switched gears a little bit and realized that the potential for us to impact the workflow of a lot of different industries and groups is even bigger than we thought, and we wanted to align internally around what that opportunity was. So I help out with that, and we help work with any type of company who's looking to implement laser scanning, 3D capture for any type of project with any type of device is really our goal.
Yeah, I think one of the things over the years that's really amazed me, I don't think most people around the globe, and particularly in the U.S., when they're out shopping for an apartment or a condo or even homes, and they're able to do that magic walkthrough, Matterport is pretty much ubiquitous in that segment. Would you agree or not? I mean, that's where I saw the real adoption, the real early masses but they don't even know they're using it. How does that impact what you guys are doing, and how have you seen that impact your growth?
Yeah, I mean, that's where Matterport really started off. That's where we got, our initial customers, and where we found product market fit was within the residential real estate market for homeowners who wanted to have a more immersive way of showcasing their property for potential buyers. And not only that, expand the potential geographic reach that they could have to get someone to actually walk through that house. So that's where we started out was when someone was selling a property, we tried pitching them, hey, what if you could have someone, from California walk through your house that's in DC? And then people started saying, okay, well, it's pretty interesting. Whatever we can do to get some more eyeballs on the house and maybe find more potential buyers, we're into it. And it really expanded. And I think that is kind of what allowed us to educate the market a little bit on what, 3D visualization is, and also how easy it can be to capture and how meaningful it can be once you actually have that type of data, once you actually have that type of service. Because once these homeowners started using this as a marketing tool, kind of just showcasing their property, they realized, well, it's 3D, right? So there's measurements in there. So we can measure and figure out where we put our couch, and we can figure out, where we install the television. And we said, yeah, definitely, you can do that. And then they said, well, now we're trying to do a renovation on our home, and we need to figure out, how do we budget for this expansion? How do we do estimation of cost? And so we really started hearing a lot of feedback from our customers on opportunities where, going past visualization, Matterport was a useful tool. And that's when we started to expand into the construction world and the architectural world. And that's when we started figuring out kind of where our position was relative to the Leicas, the Pharaohs, the Trimbles, who produce those really high quality, high-end laser scanning devices. But for a lot of people, it's not accessible. It doesn't provide them a way to capture because of how expensive or how complicated it might be. So going from residential real estate, we had to kind of figure out where our path was within all of the laser scanning segments and markets. And now we're just starting to figure out kind of how do we provide value across all those different industries.
Yeah, I like that you recognize there are some differences, and there's nothing wrong with any of those. I mean, the Pharaohs, the Leicas, the BLKs, all these are really, really important tools, as is Matterport, and they have different use cases. We use a framing hammer different than we use a finished trim hammer, to speak industry jargon. They're two different tools, but they're both hammers. So that's really, a lot of times I think what companies that believe they are competing in a tech space try to be everything the other companies are, where that's something that's beautiful about what you guys are doing. And even, Pharaoh and Leica, and, you guys, while it's similar, there's differences that you're providing. So, and maintaining those, I think, is important to the industry to help that. Along with, as you were speaking too, you mentioned you're talking historically with Matterport. And that's one of the things that's fascinating to me right now about this. We're in the middle of this week of the first of 44 AEC hackathons. This is the first virtual one. Why are we in that? We've got a global pandemic, unlike no other. It's forced us all to work differently. But I heard you say there's really nothing that you've done different for Matterport business model than 5 years ago. So now we're forced to shop for that house in DC from Las Vegas. Or we're forced, to meet together and to view a facility or building. So, I think there's a lot of great technology platforms and organizations that have had the tools for a long time that really aren't scrambling right now to make their tools work. It's just another day in the life of Matterport in a lot of ways. So that's pretty cool. What other that you can share, since this video is not under NDA and won't be since it'll be out for everybody. But what can you share that you see Matterport, being able to maybe expand into something we haven't seen readily or fully developed in the marketplace yet? Do you have other initiatives that Matterport's taking on or segments?
Yeah, definitely. So one thing that has always been a priority of ours since the beginning was trying to bring 3D visualization, 3D capture, laser scanning to every market, anyone who is interested in using it. And because of the price that it typically costs, like we said, it's not really accessible to a lot of different people. So One of the things that we really worked on over the past year and a half, and very recently in the past couple of months, was taking the 3 million plus 3D captures that we have in our database and figuring out ways to utilize that data in a way that could potentially empower even more affordable devices down kind of the chain to create 3D. So what we did last year was, for a lot of people who use open space or hollow builder, those types of tools, they use 360 cameras, right? They use a $300 off the shelf device. They're just taking pictures, videos, and it provides a really useful way to very quickly get documentation of properties. And so what we actually did was we built a system that could ingest those 2D images, those panoramas, and then turn those 2D images into 3D. So we actually created an engine using AI, we call it Cortex, that converts 2D into 3D. And then what we did with that was basically say, anyone who now has a 360 camera, you don't even need a laser scanner. You can create a 3D model, a 3D visualization with a 2D $300 camera now that can allow you to visualize your property, allow someone else to walk through it, and really take that goal that we had one step further of bringing the opportunity to create 3D to everyone. And then in the past 2 months, after we collected a little bit more data and figured out how the workflow kind of functioned with 360 cameras, we enabled iPhones to be able to create 3D visualization. So we basically took all the data from the 360s, all the data from the Matterport Pro 2 cameras, and then ingested that into Cortex, and then figured out how to convert pictures taken from an iPhone into 3D. Wow. So now any homeowner or any construction group or a general contractor, if they really, really quickly wanted to take a 3D capture, a 3D space of anything, their office, a construction job, if they needed milestone or construction documentation or a progress check, they could easily take that and they'll send it over to their office 50, 100, 1,000 miles away, where, like you talked about earlier, the ability to do remote work now has become more critical than ever. So that's what we've been working on over the past couple of months, is bringing 3D once again to anyone who's looking to create that type of experience, no matter their budget, no matter the type of device that they have, all with the understanding that having that digital twin of that property, that digital representation of that space, provides so much value. And if we can't unlock that ability because of the budget or the different devices or the complexity of it, then no one will be able to realize that value. So we really wanted to help make sure anyone with a cell phone in their pocket or a 360 camera could create a 3D experience.
Yeah, and you mentioned one term a number of times that I think is ubiquitous again in this industry right now, and that's data. We're more about data, but what makes data valuable as a user even experience, to use a tech term, UX, is the visualization. So behind that, and that's why I wanted to point out one other thing, that also even in your utilizing, let's say, as I mentioned earlier, in a facilities management role with Matterport and a scan, one thing I was really impressed with was your capability of the matter tagging, which is another piece of the bridge that lets those photograms or the visualization now is going to be connected to data about specific assets, a pump or an HVAC system, or even the paint color of a wall. So again, I like to point these things out to the audience that there's a lot packed inside of Matterport besides just cool views. It's really a tool that's allowing us and enabling us to digitalize the industry beyond just 3D, beyond just the visualizations, but even into the data and managing these things. So
yeah, and that's been another huge priority of ours over the past year as well, is opening up the platform, giving customers direct access to the data, the core technology that's powered our system. So we're trying to create a kind of an ecosystem of partners, and that's why we're really happy to be a part of the AEC Hackathon. To let people, the engineers and the developers who have really all these awesome ideas, and they look at a Matterport scan and they think, yeah, we could connect our Nest thermostat or HVAC system or the water throughput or the temperature gauges to that digital twin, to that digital representation of the property, to have this kind of living dashboard of our factory or our commercial building or whatever it may be. And so we wanted to basically open up our platform and say, okay, Matterport as a company, we're moving really methodical and maybe a little bit slower than a developer might, but let's open up the platform and let them kind of tinker away and figure out what are the solutions they can build on top of it.
Yeah, it's called, well, in a way, you're crowdsourcing the ecosystem, because it's really weaving, this whole web together, and not to mean the internet web. I'm talking about the web of that data. So, well, man, Ethan, thank you so much for taking the time out. And on behalf of the AEC Hackathon, thank you for the support. Thank you for support this week. I know that you're making some presentations, engaged in it, as well as you have people as mentors and helping teams out. So thank you so much for that and your time today. We are in the midst of the 44th hackathon, but version 1.0 of a virtual AEC hackathon. You could still register. Actually, there's still some teams that were just forming this morning. I was just out in Slack, and we just had another team form. So it's a 2-week event. Usually we're trying to get all this done over 48 hours of a weekend. So there's a little more time. That doesn't mean that there's any less urgency on getting things together. So you can register at hackaec.com, all one word, hackaec.com. Again, it runs through July 26th, and even if you don't register, there will be the presentations of the teams on Saturday the 25th, and on the 26th will be the awards presentation and closing ceremony. So those are all open to the public. You can go out to hackaec.com even if you're not registered, and there will be, I believe the links are there now for being part of that. So thanks, Ethan. I'm sure I'll see you around virtually this week. Until the next time on HolzerTime. Take care.
Cheers.